Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There you go, right down there. You want to be among the first to hear my weekly takes, NFL, college football, more, right there. Sharp per square, Chad Millman, CCO Action Network. I actually, this week, love the Lions, and I love dogs everywhere this week. I'm going value shopping because I've been heavy on the favorites for about a month. It's done me okay. You ready to go?
I'm ready, brother. Let me hear what you're selling.
I don't like the line as much now, but Chicago plus 7.5 at Detroit. Lions off a big win. Justin Fields is capable of big plays. Detroit gives up a lot of them. Lost in that win is that the Chargers marched up and down the field and had 5 straight touchdowns at the end, and often very quickly. I would love it at 9.5. I thought it was second best line of the week, but at 7.5, I would take the Bears sharper square.
Totally sharp. Look, you're still getting more than a touchdown. The line was at 10 on Tuesday. Went to 9, went to 8.5, went to 8, woke up Thursday morning, 48 hours later, it's at 7.5. A couple things going on here. One, when it was at 10, a load of inflation. And what I mean is the Lions are now a public team. People want to bet them. People who don't know anything about football want to bet on the Lions the same way they used to want to bet on the Patriots, the same way they used to want to bet on the Packers, the same way they still want to bet on the Cowboys, right? So there was inflation. That's why the wise guys came in and took the 10 and took the 9 and took the 8, and now it's down to 7.5. That's number one. Number two, divisional matchups. Divisional matchups favor the road team. They favor the underdog. So when you get that Venn diagram, you want to bet the road underdog. It's a lot of divisional matchups this week. This is one the wise guys spotted right away.
I'm going to throw my theory at you. I like the Vikings plus 2.5 at Denver. Denver, you always talk about lucky. That was the luckiest win in the league this year. 12-man, multiple fumbles, 3 drop passes. How many times did the Broncos get a drive starting at the 50 and not give me points? Meanwhile, Buffalo was a bit unlucky, 12th man among them. Minnesota, I think a lot of people think, hey, it's a cute story. Well, it's more than that. Josh Dobbs is effective. He's accurate. Justin Jefferson could come back. They have an excellent offensive coach. I like their personnel a lot. 2.5 is too much. I think Minnesota is a real team. The Josh Dobbs thing, he's more mobile now than Russell. He's accurate. They have better weapons. I know the number's telling me to bet Denver. I'm going to take Minnesota plus 2.5 sharper square.
Square. The wise guys are taking Denver. The public is taking Minnesota. You can see this by what's called the reverse line move. You see all the bets coming in on Minnesota, and yet the line continues to go up. It's gone from 1 to 1.5. Before the Buffalo game, it was at 1.5. After the game, it only went up to 2 because bookmakers are trying to figure out which way is the public and which way are the wise guys going to go with 2 teams that are winning in surprising ways. The public came in on Minnesota. The wise guys came in on Denver. So what you're saying about Josh Dobbs is totally accurate. But let's look at what Denver has done. Denver has won 3 games in a row. After that devastating loss to the Chiefs on a Thursday night, Russell Wilson had fewer than 100 yards passing. He had 2 picks. That was following up a week in which they lost to the Jets, in which the game was clinched by Russell Wilson scrambling and then forcing his own fumble by knocking the ball out of his hand with his own leg, and the Jets pick it up and run it back for a touchdown. Since then, they've completely retooled not just this defense, which has been considerably better, but Russell Wilson in this offense. They get him into a position to make a decision faster. They were snapping the ball with 10 seconds or less too often. Now they're not doing that. You even saw it last week against the Bills. They weren't game-changing plays, except they were plays that didn't cause Denver to lose yardage and lose momentum. It was a simple pass under the first quarter. Russell Wilson, 2nd and 1, looks down the field. Instead of scrambling, instead of trying to find someone deep, he just dumps it off, right? First down. Very next play. Pass rush is coming up both sides. The middle of the field opens. Russell Wilson doesn't hesitate, sprints for 10 yards. Russell Wilson has 18 touchdown passes, 2nd in the league behind Tua. 4 interceptions, 2nd fewest. 7th best rated passer against the rush, according to PFF. They're a better team right now.
All right. I'm going to take Seattle -1 at the Rams. I don't think the Rams, a rebuilding roster, can sweep the Seahawks this year. I don't care McVay, Pete Carroll. I just don't think the Rams are very good. I think their best players are all past their prime, and I think Seattle's a good team. They got a little unlucky not covering against the Commanders because two of their DBs collided, but they came back. Geno had a great drive. I just think Seattle's a better team. They travel pretty well. Home crowd means absolutely nothing. Stafford's going to play, not 100%. I would take Seattle -1 to win the game. I think there's no way the Rams can sweep this team sharp or square.
Wise guys like the Rams. Seattle's wins have not been impressive. Giants, Panthers, Cardinals, Washington on a miracle. Geno's been good, but not as good as last year. I think people don't believe the Seahawks defense is as good as it's rated. They think it might be a little fraudulent because of who they played. Look at that first game. The Rams outgained them by 4. It was 426 to 180. They doubled them up in first downs, 27 to 13. That was without Cooper Kupp. So if you look at the strength of schedule adjusted the Rams have played, it's better. The Rams have a better QB. The line is sort of settled at 1, but it's moving in the Rams' direction because the wise guys are moving it there.
I like the Cardinals +4.5 at the Texans. Texans off maybe their biggest win in several years. I think Arizona, again, this feels like a close game to me. I'm a huge fan of Kyler Murray. I don't trust young teams off big wins. I think they pull back a little. I think because it was Joe Burrow. Remember, Cincinnati drops a touchdown pass in the end zone, or Cincinnati probably wins. Texans are still a rebuilding roster like Arizona. I would take the 4.5 with Arizona sharp or square.
Totally split. This line opened at 5.5 for Arizona was +5.5. Got bet down to 5, got bet down to 4.5, got bet down to 4. All wise guy money. Then at the 4, wise guys on the other side started coming back and betting up on Houston. It's because nobody really can find how they feel about CJ Stroud. He's a little bit of a code breaker, right? Everything you believe about what you have done historically with betting, CJ Stroud is breaking those rules. Coming back 2 weeks in a row, the way he's come back, his odds for MVP have dropped from 200 to 1 to 20 to 1. The last time a rookie won MVP, Jim Brown, 1957. So there's a lot of sentiment that maybe CJ Stroud is one of those guys who breaks all the trends, and he's been much better at home. So it's buyer beware on this one. You're getting both sides.
In sports, the scoreboard doesn't always tell the complete story. The dad who happens to be a world-class quarterback, untold tales of athletes you thought you knew, the heart-racing pressure for the heart, soul and survival of the multi-billion-dollar business of F1, stories about college kids who were given a last shot, a last chance at redemption, David Beckham's meteoric rise, not only as a global soccer superstar, but becoming a pop culture icon, upsets, injuries, come from behind victories. You're going to get it all. And I've seen it all with Netflix Sports. These are the stories that turn all of us into sports fans and give everybody something to cheer for, to feel for, to hold your breath for, and to get up out of your seat for. Whether you're a diehard or a brand new fan, intense or casual, shows like F1, Drive to Survive, Quarterback, Full Swing, Untold, Beckham, and more. Netflix has a story for every type of fan. Netflix turns us all into fans. Netflix. Okay, there's a line, and it happens maybe twice a year, that I do not get. And my instinct is Vegas knows something I don't. And this is the first one this year. The Bills -7 against the Jets seems outrageous. Vegas knows. I'm taking Buffalo -7. That line makes no sense. The Jets are an awful, awful third down team. They can't move the chains. Buffalo is incredibly unlucky between drops and penalties against Denver. They were the better team. This line, I guessed lines before they come out. I'm like 3. I'm like 7. Buffalo fires a coach, inspired. Everybody's backs against the wall. The country's bailed on them. The city's on their ass. I'm taking Buffalo -7 here, sharp or square.
So in the same way that CJ Stroud might be a bit of a cheat code, Zach Wilson is the opposite. In every way, wise guys want to take the Jets in this spot. A much, much better defense, a team in the Bills that is fading. They are now they're not even in plus money to make or in minus money to make the playoffs. They're not favorites to make the playoffs anymore. They're in a real struggle spot. Except nobody wants to back Zach Wilson. They just can't find it within themselves to back this quarterback at this number, no matter how big it is. Meanwhile, Josh Allen, historically, in this spot at home, when Josh Allen wins, he covers. That isn't the story this year, right? It's been a lot more of a struggle. There's zero consensus on this, Colin. Like, you're not going to find any wise guy who's like, oh my God, I love Josh Allen at -7. There are games where they do like big favorites this week. You're on your own on this one. There's nobody who's like, yeah, I got it. There's value on this one. Don't forget, wise guys like to bet where they think they have an edge. They do not have an on the field edge against this number.
It makes sense to take the Titans +6.5 against the Jaguars. Divisional game. Vrabel's a great underdog coach. It felt like one of the obvious ones. I think Jacksonville wins. I would rather bet the team that I think wins. But you can run on the Jaguars. The Titans will. They're very physical. I also think the Jags are a bit beat up after that loss, a bit shocked. I would take the Titans +6.5. Feels like that Cleveland. It feels like kind of that Cleveland-Baltimore game last week. Just go with the divisional rival on a point, sharp or square.
Totally sharp. That's that. Mike Vrabel, most profitable coach against the spread the past 20 years. He wins outright as an underdog more than any other coach in the past 20 years. Plus the stats, right? Road teams since 2015 in the division, covering at a 53% clip. Road dogs covering at a 55% clip. Wise guys will be on the Titans.
Finally, Eagles +3 at the Chiefs. Jalen Hurts has beaten 12 straight winning teams. This is weird. I never do this. I think Philly blows them out. I think Philly blows out Kansas City. I think it's one of those games that makes for great sports talk radio on Tuesday. I'm going to take Philly like 33-26, 33-23, physically pushes them around, sharp or square.
Dude, this is the scariest game on the board. I have bet the Eagles. My first instinct on this game, me and Simon Hunter both, professional bettor Simon Hunter, the host of my podcast with me, we looked at this game and we're like, the Eagles are the better team, right? Like every single way you look at it, they are the better team. And we bet the Eagles. We've heard some wise guys coming on the Eagles. But what's scary is Patrick Mahomes, this isn't hyperbole, virtually unbeatable in November, December. Virtually unbeatable as a favorite of 3 or less. Andy Reid, great off the bye. Like we're talking about bucking incredibly strong historical trends. You and I can make an executive decision on this. I'm with you. I think the Eagles are going to cover, but we're not going to find a ton of support from the betting community that is consensus on this. There are games where we're going to get consensus. This ain't one of them.
Okay, give me, as you know, there's a game I thought about. I want you to talk me into, and then pull one or two out that I didn't think of. So the number was smaller earlier, but I think Miami could destroy the Raiders. I think it could be absolutely one of the ugly games of the year. Last week, I took Dallas over the Giants. I felt great about it. That thing was over in 8 minutes. I think Miami's going to win by 3 touchdowns over the Raiders. The number is now like -13.5. I would take the huge favorite, sharp or square.
100% sharp. That's the play. The reason this number's gone from 11.5 to 12 to 12.5 to 13 to 13.5 in the past 48 hours, wise guys are piling on. They're not looking at the Raiders going 2-0 with Antonio Pierce and Aiden O'Connell and thinking, oh yeah, they got a shot. When the Dolphins play bad teams, they blow them out. When they play good teams, they lose. That's just their MO right now. Maybe one day they'll get better. Maybe one day they'll be competitive with more higher caliber teams. But they blow out bad teams. Look at that Carolina game. Remember it? Carolina was up by 14. You're like, oh my God, they got a shot. Before halftime, it was 35-14.
Give me a game that I have missed. Chad Millman, CCO Action Network, all odds provided by DraftKings, usually a dumpster dive. By the way, the last 4 weeks, the game I have not picked, that's been my sixth pick in Blazing 5, is 4-0. So,
of course.
Yeah, of course. And Denver, Minnesota is that game for me this week. I may pass. Okay, give me a game that I haven't thought about.
Let me ask something. When you're watching those games that you decided not to go with,
oh yeah,
are you rooting against the side you would have bet just so you can feel better? Because that's what I do.
No, I root for the side because I do want to say on the air, hey, I'm an idiot. But that was because I always say on Friday, here's the game that didn't make the cut. I'm 3-0 on these. Last week it was Arizona. So twice it was the Jets, and I should have bet them, and I didn't. So, it's just one of those things where I had a push last week on Detroit. I told you on this podcast, Detroit -1 was I thought the best bet of the week. -3, it's a push. I have 5 pushes this year. So I'm above 505 pushes, but there's got to be a game I've missed here.
Well, this is why you're a genius, by the way, because I'm rooting against the team that I would have bet on because I don't want to feel bad. And you're thinking, it's all content. It's all content, baby.
That's right. It is.
That's it. I'm going to go on after the games are over. I can make a video for the Volume YouTube page, and I'm just going to talk about how sad it would have been. Yeah. Speaking of Carolina,
it does
just
feel
do it.
like.
Don't even give me your excuses. Be my betting buddy and do it. Put it in there.
Carolina plus 10.5.
Yeah. It's a game. The wise guys love it this week. Love it. Just do it. Do it.
Dallas is on the road off a ridiculous win. Frank Reich needs to be competitive. Like, he's getting major heat. Is that the argument?
The argument is that Dallas is so overinflated. And this is a prime trap game. They just had a cakewalk. Everyone is believing that they are the best offense in the NFL, that Dak Prescott to CeeDee Lamb cannot be stopped. Now they're going to Carolina. Carolina's defense, they got some playmakers. They play better at home. When Bryce Young last week, like against the Bears, it wasn't pretty, but he can find a way if they get a couple of breaks. And 10.5 is a lot. It's a lot for a team to cover when they are on the road, coming off the win that they just came off of. So I actually took a little bit of taste of Carolina on the money line.
All right, Millman, that's pretty good. Good to see you're back from Dusseldorf or wherever you were at. It was very...
Listen, it was Copenhagen. You love Copenhagen. You want to move there.
Hagen.
Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah.
You know what? You got content. You got class.
I don't know about that.